Y lo otro que me gustaría es si me podían dejar una moto acá.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of a very special series here on the Spanish Dojo channel, where I'll be sharing an amazing motorcycle adventure across the entire country of Chile, which my cousin David and I undertook in January of 2020. If you haven't done so yet, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. This series will be presented in both English and Spanish, so if you would like to use it to practice your Spanish listening comprehension, solo haz clic aquí arriba para empezar esta aventura en español. If you're still with me, I assume you prefer to enjoy this adventure in English, so here we go. Now you might be thinking, wait, you guys rode across that entire country on motorcycles in the month of January? Ah, but wait, you're thinking too much like someone from the Northern Hemisphere. If you don't know where Chile is, it's that long, skinny country that runs along a huge portion of the western coast of South America, in the Southern Hemisphere. This means that the seasons are inverted, which makes a ride in January there much more like a ride in July here. So, coming from the state of Indiana, where I live in the United States, I had to fly all the way down to the southern hemisphere, where Chile is. We had to first fly into the capital, Santiago, which is in the center of the country, and then take a separate flight to the port town of Arica, which is all the way in the north, pretty much right on the Peruvian border. Now, Chile is divided into 16 regions, and in the first episode, we'll be riding through the regions of Arica y Parinacota, Tarapacá, and Antofagasta, and we'll also make it just inside the northern portion of the region of Atacama. Taken as a group, these four administrative regions also make up the natural region known as the Norte Grande, which could be translated as the Great North, Far North, Big North, etc. Again, remember that this is the southern hemisphere, so not just the seasons, but also the climates are inverted from what you might be used to as well, meaning that the warmest regions are in the north and the coldest ones are in the south. So, by and large, this northern area of the country is composed of mostly desert. In fact, this is where you'll find the Atacama Desert, which is the driest desert in the world. So that should give you some idea of what the landscape will look like for this first segment of our ride. The bikes were actually loaded up back in October of 2019 to make the voyage. Ours are the two on the back there. The one in front was just a guy sharing the container with us. Then they shipped out from Anchorage, Alaska, which is where my cousin lives, all the way down to Chile in the southern hemisphere, where they would meet us in that same port town at the northernmost extreme of the country called Arica, which I mentioned earlier. We planned for them to arrive a little bit before we would get there, and that ended up working out. They got there Christmas Day 2019, which was just a couple of weeks before we would arrive. We ended up making it to Arica on January 9th. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough time to do everything we had to do to get the bikes out of the port the day we arrived. So we ended up just hanging out, checking out the city of Arica. We had a bite to eat, spent the night there, and the next day, January 10th, with a lot of help from a guy by the name of Roberto Chiavaroli, who represented the company that was shipping our bikes, we were able to get everything done, get the bikes out, and rock and roll. By the time we were able to get on the road, it was actually pretty late, and although neither one of us wanted to ride at night, we did want to be able to make some kind of progress before the day was over. We ended up riding for around 3 hours or so and covered a little over 150 miles along Route 5, so although not a long ride, it at least allowed us to make some progress. We found this little recess off the highway just south of a small town called Huara, threw up our tent, and camped there for the night. We headed out the next morning, January 11th, found this little roadside food stand and got something to eat. We went out of our way just a little bit because we wanted to check out the giant of Tarapacá. You can kind of see the giant here in the distance, which is a geoglyph that's just shy of 400 feet. It's in the side of a hill there in the middle of the Atacama Desert. Here we're riding back by our campsite on Route 5, where we had camped out the night before, so you can get a better shot of where it was in relation to the highway. Another cool attraction we checked out was the Humberstone Saltpeter Works. This was basically a saltpeter mine, sometimes called a nitrate town. It was set up in 1872, and since 1960, it's been a ghost town. Hummerstone sits right on the junction between Route 5 and Route 16, so we headed west on Route 16 through a small portion of the desert toward the towns of Alto Hospicio and Iquique, which are right next to each other on the coast. Now, Alto Hospicio technically sits at an elevation above Iquique, so they have this cool little overlook where you can look down on the city of Iquique right on the coast. So we checked it out and then made our way down. To leave Iquique, we headed south on Route 1, which primarily follows the coastline rather than the desert like Route 5 that we were on before. And it's really cool because you end up riding this stretch of highway sandwiched right between the Pacific Ocean and the Atacama Desert. And we rode through right at sunset, which gave us some beautiful golden hour footage. As the evening wore on, we checked out a couple of places along the side of the road to set up our tent. We ended up finding a place, but it wasn't until dark that we were actually able to set up. It was this little place called Cobija. There weren't a lot of people around, so we were able to set up our tent and camp right by the ocean as we finished off January 11th with around 235 miles logged for the day. The next morning, January 12th, we did a little off-roading to make our way back to the highway, and then we were on our way. made our way through Antofagasta, which is another coastal city along Route 1. On our way out of Antofagasta, we took Route 28, which is a little transitional highway between Route 1 and Route 5. This would put us back in the desert again. Once we got to where we were heading south on Route 5 again, this is where we were right in the middle of the Atacama Desert. And you can see by this footage here just how vast this thing is. You go quite a ways without seeing any gas stations. So since David had a 9-gallon tank and I had a 6, we had to do a little bit of gas sharing along the way and make sure that we could both get through. After taking us over 240 miles through the desert, Route 5 eventually brought us back to the coast at a town called Chañaral, where we found a gas station and David was able to repair a small oil leak he had detected along the way. We wanted to get some groceries for the night, but most of the main stores were closed. We did find this little family-owned shop though, and the owners there were able to help us out. And we were able to get our first interview of the trip with the Vergara family. And here they are.
Daniel.
Mi nombre es Arica Vergara, de Chile.
¿Y ustedes dónde viven?
En Chile.
Acá en Chile.
Chañaral.
En Chañaral.
Tercera región, Atacama.
Ah. ¿Y a qué se dedican?
Comercial.
Comerciante.
Yo salí de cuarto medio, ahora entro a la
Estudiante.
universidad.
Ah, ya entró.
Egresada de la enseñanza media.
Ah, okay.
Bueno, nosotros estamos muy contentos que ustedes como norteamericanos, hermanos de América del Norte, estén por acá disfrutando en este verano. Y bienvenido a Chile, bienvenido a nuestra región. Les queremos ofrecer a ustedes como chañaralinos, como atacameños, un parque hermoso que se llama Pan de Azúcar. ¿Ah? Que disfruten ahí las playas hermosas, marisco, pescado rico. Entonces, que lo disfruten y lo pasen bien.
Es bonito ver gente extranjera que parten por acá. Es como una novedad para uno.
Sí.
Yo me alegro mucho que ustedes han pasado por acá.
Y lo otro que me gustaría, si me podían dejar una moto acá.
No, pero hay
Pero la foto.
La foto, ok. Muchísimas
Hija, ¿quería
gracias.
decir alguna cosita? No quería decir nada, mi Pepe. Pero es muy inteligente, muy habilosa mi hija. Que lo pasen bien.
Gracias.
Daniel es mi nombre.
Although I wasn't able to grant Mr. Vergara's wish of getting to keep my motorcycle, he did get the picture he wanted. They recommended this little place next to the ocean called Caleuche, where we set up and cooked up the supplies we had bought at their shop. This put us at 338 miles for January 12th and makes around 726 total miles covered in this episode. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Once again, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Click up here to continue with the next episode of the Chile Ride series in English, or if you would like to practice your listening comprehension by rewatching this same episode in Spanish, solo haz clic aquí abajo para volver a ver este mismo episodio en español.